One of my favorite things about a new NHL season is seeing how guys perform on their new teams. It's fun to speculate on and break down player movement as it happens throughout the offseason, but you really can't come to any conclusions until you see guys play. So for today's video, I made up a list of NHL players that changed teams in the offseason, whether it was through trade or free agency, that in my opinion are already looking like steals for their new teams. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, so if there's any players that you feel like I missed, let me know who those players are down below in the comments. And most importantly, if this is your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button. We're getting super close to 75,000. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and start the video off with the first of two New York Rangers we're going to talk about today, goaltender Jonathan Quick, who signed a 1-year, $825,000 deal with the Rangers in the offseason. And before Quick signed this deal with the Rangers, to be honest, I thought there was a good chance he may just retire after how last season went. The Los Angeles Kings shipped Jonathan Quick out around the trade deadline in a move for Gavrikov and Jonas Korpisalo, and we all know how that went. Jonathan Quick did not want any part of Columbus, so the Blue Jackets would then do right by Jonathan Quick and move him to a team that he would report to and want to play for, the Vegas Golden Knights. He got into 10 games with Vegas after the deadline and before the playoffs, but didn't see action in a single playoff game. So after all that, I kind of figured Quick might just ride off into the sunset, call it a career, because I didn't really feel like there would be a team out there willing to give him a contract as either a starter or a backup, and Jonathan Quick probably didn't want any part of being a third string. As we know now, that was obviously not the case, and the New York Rangers decided to take a chance on a 37-year-old Jonathan Quick, gave him a 1-year deal to back up Igor Shesterkin, and so far so good for Jonathan Quick as a member of the New York Rangers. He has been absolutely lights out, 3-0-1 with a 1.77 goals against, a .935 save percentage, and he currently ranks 10th in the entire NHL in goals saved above expected at 5.81. Unbelievable value from a guy who's basically getting paid league min this season. Moving along now to the next player on my list, the man in the thumbnail, Oliver Ekman-Larsson of the Florida Panthers. Now, just as a bit of a disclaimer, these stats are actually already out of date because I'm recording this during the Florida-Chicago game that's on today, and after the first period, Oliver Ekman-Larsson already has 2 assists, so the 7 points you see on the screen, that's wrong. He's already up to 9. In my opinion, Oliver Ekman-Larsson has kind of been Florida's unsung hero so far this season. He has stepped up in a big way with the likes of Aaron Ekblad and Brandon Montour missing the start of the season. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is playing tough minutes. He's averaging close to 24 minutes of ice time per game, and he has done fantastic in a role that I don't think any of us thought he could thrive in anymore at this point in his career based on what we've seen from him in Vancouver the last couple seasons. Now, is what Ekman-Larsson is doing right now sustainable across a full 82-game season? At this point in his career, I don't think so, but he's not going to have to sustain this for a full season because when the likes of Montour and Ekblad come back, he's likely going to take on a much lesser role and go from being one of the top 30 minute eaters in the league this season to probably playing, the 3rd or 4th most minutes on his team behind the likes of Ekblad, Montour, and also probably Forsling. But early on this season, the Panthers have to be loving what they are seeing from Oliver Ekman-Larsson, as he has proved that he is still capable of stepping up and playing tough minutes when he has to. For a guy who was just bought out in the offseason by the Canucks and only given a 1-year deal this season by the Panthers, he's having quite a start to the season and a pretty big career resurgence, I would say, in Florida. Next up on my list, we have Tyler Toffoli of the New Jersey Devils. The Devils acquired Toffoli in the offseason in a trade from the Calgary Flames in exchange for a 3rd-round pick and Sharon Govich. And this was one of those trades where at the time the deal was made, everybody knew the Devils did really well. It was a tough situation for the Calgary Flames as they really didn't have any leverage. It was either trade him or let him play out his final year of his contract in Calgary and he walks for nothing as a UFA, and teams knew that, which led to the Flames getting a pretty underwhelming return for a legit top-line forward coming off of a career year. And based off the early returns of Tyler Toffoli in New Jersey, it looks like we were all right. They got an absolute steal. He has continued to play like a top-line forward, 14 points in 13 games, which is 3rd on the Devils behind only Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes. He's got an expected goals for percentage of almost 60%. Tyler Toffoli has filled out the Devils' top 6 beautifully, and sure, he is in the final year of his contract, but even if he leaves New Jersey as a UFA, if he continues producing at this pace this season and contributes well for the Devils in a playoff run, this trade was well worth it. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Suter of the Vancouver Canucks, who signed a 2-year, $3.2 million deal with Vancouver in the offseason, an AAV of 1.6 mil, and although his numbers don't jump off the sheet at you with 4 goals goals in 14 games. I think he has been a fantastic signing, and at 1.6 million, he's given Vancouver great value. His 4 goals in 14 games is still around a 23 goal pace, which would be a career high for Suter. He's scored around the 15 goal mark in each of his first 3 seasons, and all 4 of his goals have came recently. He's really started to heat up as of late. If I'm not mistaken, he was held pointless through his first 9 or 10 games as a Canuck. Aside from the offensive production, he's done great in the faceoff circle, winning over 55% of his draws. He's playing a very solid 200-foot game, and the Vancouver Canucks had an absolutely atrocious penalty kill last season. It was definitely an area they needed to improve upon heading into this season, and Suter has really helped them do that. Next up, we have Aalo of the Winnipeg Jets, who was dealt to the Winnipeg Jets as part of the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. And if you guys listened to any of my coverage on that trade, I was very vocal about the fact that I think the Winnipeg Jets did very well. And based on what we've seen from the players involved in that trade so far this season, I feel like it's really only hammered home the fact that the Jets did incredibly well in that deal. Aalo through 14 games in Winnipeg has 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points, which is actually more points than Pierre-Luc Dubois has in Los Angeles. His two-way game has continued to be fantastic like it has been throughout the majority of his career, and for a team in the Winnipeg Jets whose top forwards like Scheifele and Connor and Ehlers are, sometimes criticized for not having a good defensive game, it makes guys like Aalo that much more valuable. I also think Rasmus Kupari, who is a part of that Dubois trade, has done well on Winnipeg's 4th line. Obviously, Velarde got injured early on this season, but I'm excited to see what he can do when he gets back. Overall, I think the Jets really have to be liking what they're seeing from the new faces they brought in as part of that Dubois trade, Aalo especially. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have the other New York Ranger that I alluded to earlier in the video, defenseman Erik Gustafsson, who, like Jonathan Quick, signed a 1-year $825,000 deal with the Rangers in the offseason, and I was a little bit surprised when that contract was signed that Gustafsson couldn't get anything more than basically league minimum on a 1-year deal. This is a guy who had 42 points last season. I know he is viewed as, a little bit of a one-dimensional defenseman, but you look at what guys like Shane Gostisbehere and John Klingberg were both able to get on 1-year deals north of $4 million, so I kind of figured there would have been more money out there for Erik Gustafsson, but hey, the New York Rangers are definitely happy with the kind of production they're getting from a defenseman, only making $825K. He's got 9 points in 13 games so far with the Rangers, which is good for 2nd on the team in scoring amongst defensemen, only behind, of course, Adam Fox. He's averaging over 18 minutes of ice time per game, an expected goals for percentage of over 55%. He is giving the Rangers an unbelievable value for that price tag, and he's proving that used in the right role, he can be extremely valuable. The next player on my list is Vladimir Tarasenko of the Ottawa Senators, who signed a 1-year $5 million deal with the Sens in the summer. And is $5 million cheap by any means? No, but it's very easy to digest on just a 1-year deal, and Tarasenko is giving Ottawa some great production. He's got 11 points through his first 13 games. He's a +8, not being asked to do too much. He's only playing around 15.5 minutes per game. He's came in and really balanced the Senators' top 9 out nicely. He's replaced some of the offensive production they lost with DeBrincat being dealt to the Red Wings. Dominik Kubalik was also expected to do that, who was part of the return for DeBrincat, but he's been ice cold to start the season, so I feel like that makes what Tarasenko is doing that much more important. Overall, Vladimir Tarasenko has been a very nice veteran addition for a young team that's trying to take that next step and break through and make the playoffs. And the Sens didn't have to break the bank or commit to Tarasenko long term either to bring him in. Moving along now to the next player on my list, we have Alex DeBrincat of the Red Wings. I'm sure a lot of you saw this one coming. This was another one of those trades similar to the Tyler Toffoli one, where when it happened, a lot of us figured that Detroit did really well based off of the fact that the Senators really didn't have any leverage. Everybody knew DeBrincat wanted to go to Detroit. That was one of the few teams that he would have signed long term with. So this of course led to the Senators getting kind of an underwhelming package. I mean, they still did get a first-round draft pick and a guy capable of scoring, 15 to 20 goals, but the first rounder is likely going to be a late one, as it'll be the later of Detroit or Boston's. Considering what the Red Wings gave up and what they've been getting so far from DeBrincat, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. This was an absolute steal for Detroit. DeBrincat through 15 games is scoring at a 50+ goal pace. He has came in and already addressed so many needs for the Red Wings, a team that lacked a true elite level finisher. You now have that in Alex DeBrincat. You have a stable line mate for Dylan Larkin. You have a guy that just by being on the ice is going to improve your power play, as he's always a threat. Although DeBrincat has been a lot colder lately over these last 2 weeks or so than he was to start the season, still when you look at this season so far as a whole, he has been unreal for the Red Wings. And now finally finishing out the video with Cam Talbot, goaltender for the Los Angeles Kings, who signed a 1-year $2 million deal with the Kings in the offseason. The cap it is only $1 million though, know, it's one of those weird contracts. But man, have I ever been wrong about Cam Talbot so far this season. Heading into the season, my biggest concern about the Los Angeles Kings was the goaltending. I thought when you look at their offense and defense and their roster as a whole, that this is a team that could very well be Stanley Cup contenders, but I had a hard time calling a team with the 1-2 punch net of Phoenix Copley and Cam Talbot Stanley Cup contenders. Well, lo and behold, Cam Talbot has been one of the best starting goaltenders in the entire NHL this season because, of course, he has. Goaltending is just so random. He's 7-3-1 with a .923 save percentage and a 4.18 goals saved above expected. He has given the Los Angeles Kings more than they probably ever expected when they signed him to this contract, and if he can even just somewhat sustain this for the entire season, not play at like a Vezina level of course, but you know, finish with around .910 or .915 save percentage, then the Los Angeles Kings are in fantastic shape. So that is going to wrap up today's video. That was my list of players that changed teams in the offseason that in my opinion are already looking like steals for their new teams. Again, like I mentioned at the start, I always want to know what you guys are thinking, so if there's anybody that you think I missed, let me know who those players are and why down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please be sure to leave it a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button and I will talk to you all again soon.